do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
They changed the name of the high school and all James Woods can say is, ooh, a piece of candy. 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 When a ball turned into a vampire, all James Woods could say was, ooh, a piece of candy. 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 When he became Peter's best friend, they sat around the house and said, ooh, a piece of candy. 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 And you know that James Woods practices lines real well, but everything that he reads becomes real hard to spell. Everyone tries to help him, but the words just won't come out. There's only one thing he can think of, and it's what comes out his mouth. Ooh, a piece of candy. 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 When he comes out of his house, the women scream and shout. Ooh, a piece of candy. 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 When they know that he's next to the best of them all, when he says, ooh, a piece of candy. 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 Reese's Pieces on the floor and watch him come a saying, ooh, a piece of candy. 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 And you know that James Woods practices lines real well, but everything that he reads becomes real hard to spell. Everyone tries to help him, but the words just won't come out. There's only one thing he can think of, and it's what comes out his mouth. Ooh, a piece of candy. 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 When he comes out of his house, the women scream and shout. Ooh, a piece of candy. 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 Ooh, a piece of candy.
Fucking thing sucks.
Yeah. None of that dissolved shit. We get right to it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Extra Bull Live. I'm your host, Uncle Warren. I got Ed Heller with me and Franco from Frank Analysis. What's up, gentlemen? How are you?
Good.
You guys
Life
out there?
is plentiful.
You guys in TV land here? Us okay? Aces, we good? Huh? We doing this? We trying. We had some messed up audio shit today, so who knows? We might be doing sign language. Anybody ESL here? Anybody got some? I think I only know this one. I don't think anybody wants that one. So, wait a minute. What happened? Jerry is tardy, and eventually his old ass will get in here soon. So I think he said he had something. He'd go find his Metamucil, or is that what it was? Is that the powdered stuff? Is that what that is? He's older than all of us, so we have to take care of our elderly. There, Ed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's not going to be thrilled that you called him elderly.
Well, I'm not thrilled that he's late. So tit for tat. There you go. Giggity goo. Let's say hi to everybody that's here. We have friends here who decided to join us in our celebration of propaganda. We got Bella's here, and Desert Mantis is here. Miguel's here, of course, and Zell, my new buddy Zell. Zell is so fun. I love you, Zell. We got Fingerman in the house too, and Miss Laney Peterson good to see you. A week from tonight, Miss Laney is going to be on the show with us here, ExtraBulla Live. We'll be talking like radio and all kinds of cool stuff like that too. So, gentlemen, it's good to see you. Tonight we, this night was inspired by you, Franco, and your video that you put out last week, talking about the secrets of propaganda. And I know the real secret show. And so because the propagandists don't want us to know all their little tips and tricks and little secrets and stuff like that, because otherwise we'll know what's up, and then they won't be able to fool us again. So I mean, what inspired you to make the video?
I wanted to talk about how society programs us. So just wanted to put out video topics like that, have a playlist on my channel at some point, talking about all these different ways in which society tries to program us. Like I've talked about how social media algorithms can program society. And this is just another video like that, how propaganda can program society. So yeah, there'll be more stuff like that in the future. I'm looking really forward to it.
Yeah, it's and we've it's really cool that a lot of the younger people these days are starting to figure out that they're being propagandized too, right? It took some of us a while to figure it out, because we were, back in the day, we didn't have the internet to look up things and to instantly talk to somebody else to see what their point of view was going on and that sort of thing. So we had to rely on the limited media and stuff that we had, and turns out the media was shit. Just telling us nothing but lies, I was going to wait till Jerry got here, but I think we can go ahead and do this now. But I thought maybe we could just go around. I brought you and Ed and eventually Jerry on because we all have some sort of media background, right? And we've all been exposed to different kinds of propaganda. Actually, Ed is Ed. You were technically a propagandist when you worked at Playboy, right? You want to tell people what you did there?
Yeah,
wow.
I guess you could say I participated in the Playboy propaganda in the best way ever. I retouched photos for Playboy.com and their cyber club. And most of those photos contain flesh tones.
Okay.
So, needless to say, some of the models needed more help than others. And
in other words, what Ed's taking 8 years to tell you is he airbrushed titties. So,
yes.
So basically, he made women look like they weren't supposed to be, right?
Yes. Used to call me a Hooter fixer-upper.
Right.
And very, very accurate.
It's kind of akin to now to the Instagram filters, right? If you think about it, right? You touch up the photos and stuff in the adult magazines, or any magazine really, like fashion magazines in particular too. You see a lot of that stuff happening too, right?
Yeah,
so
a lot of the stuff that I used to do really well for the magazine, they now are automating with AI and algorithms and just programming. They're building the stuff in. It's built into, like you said, the Instagram filters. They built them into basically all the types of video cameras and stuff. When anybody is like, oh yeah, well I need to smooth out my features, they built that into all kinds of streaming programs, including one we use for Chicago Corner called StreamYard. And I'm like, you just check a box and all of a sudden, oh, now you're nice and smooth. All your facial features, you're not going to see pores. You're not going to see freckles. You'll be lucky to see facial hair if you got that thing turned up too high.
now, Franco, I know you're activist / journalist. So you've talked to different politicians and whatnot, and you've gotten your experience dealing with propaganda from those folks as well, like in the form of just like lies and just being told something else or just told to go away, and because
Yeah.
you're the press, and these politicians are telling you to go away. What was your experience?
Yeah, pretty much that. They want to keep a narrative to keep people in these echo chambers or keep people buying these narratives. Whatever is going to satisfy the pockets of these people who fund these politicians, right? For the politicians, it's like survival too, because these people are paying them. And in the case for the people that would say, oh, like, but I don't receive like money from lobbyists, like we know, right? The squad and all those people, they still receive other benefits, right? When they were in the Democratic Party, they receive certain roles and stuff. They want to maintain that job. And so they have to be a part of that cult. So that's what these propaganda machines try to do, is maintain these people in these different cults all fighting each other, stay in disillusion.
Yeah. I have a journalism background from local television news down south. And in the local television stations, you did have some semblance of censorship, especially when it came to sponsors for the television station, advertisers, right? So, for example, like if a certain big advertiser got into some legal trouble that maybe an investigative reporter may have uncovered, then the investigative reporter would be told by their news director, no, we can't go with that story because they're a major sponsor.
Yep.
And so in that regard, you are limiting the public to information merely to keep your bottom line afloat. And as a news organization, that is totally just wrong, because when television news first started out, it was supposed to make it wasn't supposed to make money. It was a public service. It's like the Federal Communications Commission said you had to dedicate a certain amount. There he is. What's up, Christmas Pete? You want to talk for us? Hey, there you go. I was just saying, I was in journalism a while back, and we were talking about our media backgrounds and, our brushes with propaganda and whatnot. And I was saying that local sponsors would often censor our news if the news stories painted them in a bad light. So a lot of times, and this was towards the end of my tenure in journalism, in television news, you were starting to see more and more stations get gobbled up by major corporations like Clear Channel, Hearst, and others. And so it was because of once that started, then you started to see a lot more crackdown on your local news as well. So Jerry is here. Jerry is from the film world. And, we're talking about like our various mediums that we're in, and any kind of propaganda. And of course, film is just filled with propaganda. You want to talk more about that, Jerry?
Film being propaganda? I guess it depends on what producer or content creator's hands it's in. I don't know. I think the realm of film is great because a lot of what we see in regular mainstream propagandized media, I think, is challenged by some filmmakers. I mean, I think the greatest example would be somebody like Oliver Stone, who made Milestones into, I think, blasting the idea of the Kennedy assassination being some kind of a conspiracy theory because of the way that news misreported it with his film JFK so many years ago, which is still the topic of conversation. Everybody always goes to that Milestone film that an artist produced and presented under a lot of fire at the time as propagating conspiracy, when actually what he was propagating was people to start looking at what the truth actually is that's been hidden from us. So, then you've got other filmmakers like Dinesh D'Souza, who I think uses the medium as a propagandist. I think maybe those are two of the best examples on each end of the spectrum of how film can be used one way or the other to either promote truth or promote more introspection and investigation and questioning, or someone like D'Souza, or I think maybe to another sense recently, who was this guy's name who did the film What is a Woman? I remember that filmmaker's name. He's also He's a he also did this Am I Racist? I forgot the filmmaker's name. Do any of you guys, you know what I'm talking
he has a beard, black hair, kind of a psycho asshole guy.
Yeah, I mean, his stuff is funny, Warren, but it's definitely from the angle of an agenda from the get-go. It doesn't, I don't know that his stuff necessarily elicits questioning so much as I'm going to embarrass and shame everyone else because they're off my agenda, my message in this documentary that, you know, he's producing for entertainment. So I think that's as much as I can probably contribute from the realm of like artistic filmmaking or how that medium is used one way or the other.
Yeah, Matt Walsh, Rick said in the chat. So yeah. So yeah, I'm just not a fan of where Matt Walsh likes to take his audience. You know,
I'm not either.
Yeah, you know, but he is. I mean, you know, like I said, the broke clock. You know, sometimes the guy's just hysterical, and it's just like I hate laughing, but it's like, you know, sometimes he's right. You know, so we've all experienced some sort of propaganda in our fields at one point or another too. And I was Jerry, as I was saying earlier, I thought maybe we could look at Franco's video that he made talking about the secrets of propaganda here. Let me see.
By the way, if I could just really quickly add, first of all, apologies for being late. Franco, pleasure to meet you. Ed,
pleasure to meet you, Jerry.
And happy Thanksgiving to all.
Yeah.
I came this close to locking the door. All right. Next time you'll fail this semester. Okay.
It's those fucking Muppets, Warren, that we're always talking about.
The Muppets. Yeah.
The ones in Congress or the other ones?
You and those damn Muppets. All right. So let me get this going here if it wants to do its thing. So this is Frank. He put this out last week. The secrets they don't want you to know about propaganda. If I can get it to work.
It's interesting too that there is more mainstream focus on this now. I mean, it always used to be Fox News is the propaganda outlet back when Bush and Cheney, and it was, but you know, because people just could not bear to believe or even assume that they could be lied to also when, you know, MSNBC or CNN started basically being the opposite side of the propaganda machine. I think maybe we can agree that most mainstream media, whether it's Fox, MSNBC, or CNN, they're all outlets of propaganda for both parties of the duopoly. But more people are finally realizing it. So many people, like especially my family with Thanksgiving coming up, you know, you have the conversations at the table. Many of them are shocked at the fact that I'm critical of CNN and MSNBC. And I'm like, why would you be shocked? I want to hold left accountable because they're supposed to represent our ideals. You cannot continue contributing to this echo chamber and continue to enable them when clearly they are trying to propagandize their audience on behalf of the DNC as much as Fox has in the past during the Bush-Cheney era, during the endless wars and millions of people that were killed during those conflicts. So we have to hold all mainstream media of any persuasion accountable when we realize what they're doing. And I'm also heartened that a lot of my family members, thankfully, especially my dad, you know, well, where do you get your mainstream news sources? I say, Dad, YouTube, Gray Zone, Dad, YouTube. And I feed him other channels that he can look to hear objective, honest, or the other one is News Nation, which I think aside from their opinion shows of people like O'Reilly or Cuomo, they do pretty balanced reporting. They're not telling people what to think in their regular reporting outside those editorial shows. They're more old-fashioned, the similar to the news that we grew up with, where they're just telling you the story. They're not telling you how to think in the regular segments that they do. So, you know, to the audience, it's like the best we can do is continue to guide people to YouTube, guide them away from the bad actors and more towards the good, broadcasters, indie newscasters, whether it's Jimmy Dore, Gray Zone, News Nation, to get a more objective, balanced view of although, you know, of course, Dore is more of an opinion, but it's based on facts as opposed to I'm going to tell you an opinion based on my feelings. No, I'm going to tell you my opinion based on the facts that we're looking at.
Yeah. So let's take a look at this video here. That really good video, by the way, Franco.
Thank you.
Almost as good at editing job as your current editor, but I mean, still good job.
I was inspired by the editor.
Inside jokes, they're all over the place. All right, so this is the video. It's 17 minutes, but I figured we could probably go through it pretty quick and hit some of the bigger points. But I want to play the intro and get us into it.
Where it's a powerful tool. Propaganda is everywhere. It's a powerful tool used to shape our thoughts, influence our beliefs, and ultimately control our behavior. Whether it's convincing us to buy a product or buy into a narrative, it's embedded in every corner of society. When it comes to narrative type propaganda, it often comes with a fear-based message, giving us a sense of anxiety and a lack of peace. Sometimes we think we've broken free from the matrix because we can see through one form of
I'm not going to get a copyright strike on this, am I? No,
nope. Propaganda, only to find ourselves trapped by another. At the end of the day, propaganda is propaganda, whether it's from a government, a corporate news outlet, an alternative media source, or even just a single individual. But what if you could learn how to easily spot it so that you do not get taken advantage of? By the end of this video, you'll not only understand how propaganda works and shapes society, but also how to see through it and recognize the manipulation at play.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all
you've
too
seen
common
before.
on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah, so
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. That's chilling. I remember when that first got exposed on social, because you live in Chicago, you don't realize Sinclair is propagating the exact same script to every state across the country. It's like, whoa, if it couldn't be any more clearer how explicit they all are.
Yeah.
well, that's what happens when you have the Telecommunications Act that lets a handful of people buy a ton of media outlets like that. You're gonna have like a lot of cut and paste shit with their newsrooms, and that the management should not be dictating anything to their newsroom as regards back in the days. What they used to do, if management wanted to make a comment about something, they do an actual commentary. The station manager would come on, there'd be these big ass words on the screen that said commentary, and he'd just be telling you what his opinions on things should be, or a certain topic, that sort of thing. But it was clearly marked commentary. And now, you fast forward to today where you don't know what commentary or actual truth meet. There's such a gray area about it that's a lot of people have taken opinions as truth, right? I mean, that's what happened to CNN. At first it was something to fill time, just have like a bunch of talking heads on there, and now it's just like they've just turned into cults. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you got cults on both sides. I mean, as much as I tell people, although I'm not happy Trump won, I'm happy the Democrats lost. You still have the echo chambers on both sides. Everybody running over to Blue Sky from Twitter so they can listen to each other and stroke each other off in the their sorrow that Biden or that Harris lost. It's like, do you want to be challenged? Well, they don't want to be challenged. They want to be in their echo chambers where they're listening to the propaganda to continue to influence them not to hold their side accountable to better standards by which everybody's going to benefit. I mean, in either party right now.
And why don't they challenge it? Right? Why don't they challenge those narratives? Because they've been propagandized for so many years. I mean, the older you are, the more comfortable you're going to be in that bubble. And when you try to get ripped out of that bubble, no, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome, and the fact that these networks have taken these people hostage, and the hostages are, saying, oh, no, of course they're telling us the truth. Or maybe they fib every once in a while, but on the important stuff, they tell us the truth, right? Blah, 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 blah.
They've adapted, though. They've expanded out, not just in the mainstream networks, but now they're on YouTube with all these different influencers and stuff, trying to fish hook people back into supporting Democrats or back into supporting Republicans. Sometimes they acknowledge, yeah, they both suck, but then they're mainly focused on just criticizing one side over the other, where you have to go after the people who are controlling both sides in order to get people to see through that illusion. Otherwise, people are just going to get sucked back into cheering for one side over the other.
I want to correctly attribute what I'm about to share with you. I forgot which personality shared this, but it made all the sense in the world. I'm not going to take credit for it. But the idea is that so many of us tie in our identities, who we are, with our politics or our religion, that the moment someone criticizes an element of either, they take it as a personal attack. They can't separate themselves. So if you are critical of the Democratic Party, even though I'm a leftist and I'm critical of them, instantly that means that you're criticizing the person who leans left or who's a Democrat, or vice versa for Republicans with religions. So it's like, can you say, and when you're tied into that identity, it's somebody telling you you're personally wrong and you don't want to accept that because you always feel or need to be right.
Yeah.
This is a part of growth and getting past hubris and ego and saying, okay, I'm going to separate thankfully, I think I've managed to do this because I've always voted Democrat. Once I started seeing how Democrats were betraying us, and I separated my identity as a quote unquote Democrat or liberal or leftist from those who've hijacked the party. When people criticize Democrats, I don't take it personally. I'm like, yeah, you're right, but why aren't you holding the right accountable?
Yeah,
what they're doing. You can't, because it's like you're a tribal team sport mentality. And actually, Ed is I think, spoken of this also in the past. It's the kayfabe. It's like professional wrestling. You're jumping on a team, and if somebody criticizes your team, you're going to go at the jugular of the other people that are criticizing you because you're taking it personally, as opposed to, I have a objective, critical mind, and I'm going to say, need to analyze everything to be able to come to understand what the actual facts are, not how the facts relate to my particular identity or worldview.
Took the words out of my mouth, Jerry, about how people attach these teams to their identity, right? If somebody says something about the Chicago Cubs, people take that as an insult to their identity, to their personality, because they've attached themselves to that. Do you guys see that, by the way, in Chicago? Someone says something bad about the Cubs, they get mad.
Uh-oh. I messed up now, man. Well, it's team sports. It's exactly, that's it. It's team sports. Yeah. It's the same thing happens with team. I'm a Saints fan, and you come after my Saints, I get country on your ass. I'm gonna bow up, right? But
we see really. That also, like like when people start getting attached to these personalities online. Also, if you say something about their favorite commentator, they take it so personally, and they'll attack you in the comment section.
In recent years, for sure. That has been wild to see that. And you're starting to see some of these, not the huge channels, but some of the less huge channels starting to make the same mistakes that those huge channels are making. And if they don't watch out, they're going to end up alienating their audience, and they're going to be left behind, just like your TYTs, your Sam Cedars, and all these other little grifter types.
I've got a perfect example to your point. As I mentioned, I got my father in. My father used to dismiss Jimmy Dore because he's so serious, and my dad's so serious, and he didn't like Jimmy's humor, but he's gotten past that. And my dad has told me he tunes into Jimmy a lot because he agrees with, and he understands and he appreciates the way that Jimmy dissects things. Now, my father has been sharing Jimmy Dore broadcasts with his friend Greg out in Arizona, who's an older friend of his, who's very, very liberal and left-leaning. And Greg has always been receptive to when Jimmy Dore has criticized the right. But the moment that my dad shared a video of Jimmy Dore criticizing, it may have been MSNBC, and what's currently been going on there as a result of the election, Gregory told my father, I don't want you sending me this stuff anymore. I don't like the way they're talking about MSNBC. You know, this is because he's more comfortable in the echo chamber. It's like, Greg, separate yourself. It's not an attack on you because you listen to MSNBC. There are certain problems over there and how they handle, present, and manage news that is propaganda and is controlled and managed by the political party that they're aligned with.
And it shouldn't even be about the networks. It should be about the information.
Yes.
And and if I could get a word in, I know you guys it's been hard. It's not everybody out there. This is not your fault. Okay. This propaganda has been building and expanding for decades. Okay.
Millennia.
But as far as America goes, you know, we don't have to go back too far. We can go back. Well, the 2006 is when was it the Telecommunications Act came out, and then we had Fox News, and then followed by MSNBC and CNN, cable news. Okay, cable news basically has become this monster that is like that's creating this bubble around you, a protection bubble to protect you from a lot of truth. They want to sculpt that information, and they want to format it for whatever their goals are. Now, I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole we want to go with Operation Mockingbird, but we do know, literally know, that people who worked for the CIA or possibly still work for the CIA are embedded in all the news outlets.
Mm-hmm. And now I would even add that they're embedded in the independent media sphere. They've co-opted it.
Yeah. And then we didn't have a whole lot going toward us if we were only superficially aware of the types of bias that these news stations had. Then it's very easy to just say, well, that's the news and that's the information they're giving us. I can't imagine they'll be giving us too much of a bias, except, you know, we'd have like a red versus blue thing, which is the usual type of bias that most people just let blow right over their head. But then comes 2012 with where President Obama legalized propaganda against his own citizens. So we don't even know how much they amped it up and turned all the propaganda up to 11, but you can guess that they ramped it up pretty high because a lot of people very resistant to us trying to break them out of those bubbles. I can tell you from personal experience, I have family members, some of them watch cable news, and you try to tell them the truth and they shake their heads, and you're challenging their worldview, and it feels like you just stab them in the heart or something when you're just trying to wake them up.
My mom's like that.
Yeah.
Fox News, literally, I'm not joking, 24/7. You go turn on the TV set in my parents' house, any room, it's Fox News glued to it, unless she's watching her interior design shows.
And you want to think that MSNBC is not as bad. It's worse.
Of course it is.
You know, it's because they make them sound like the good guys while they feed you all this stuff and make fascism sound appealing, while telling you that everyone else is doing fascism, not them.
And that's the indoctrination. It's like that. It's an indoctrination. If you're constantly in those echo chambers, as we said, you know, you take it as an assault on your identity, but you can't separate because some people can't believe that newscasters in these stations are lying to them. It's the other people lying, not the ones that kind of fit some of their worldview, but they don't realize that they're being exploited in other ways with those worldviews in ways that are harming others because they identify with that tribal mentality.
And one of the hardest parts about getting through to your friends and family about the propaganda is explaining to them that it's the example is the two-party uniparty, right? It's two dirty wings of the same dirty bird, and they're working in cahoots, and you're like, well, each of them has a role. Okay, one of them's like good cop, one of them's bad cop, or you know, if you're older, you understand the Harlem Globetrotters versus Washington Generals, or the example that I tried to put forward when we were doing Chicago Corner, the kayfabe duopoly, which is like wrestling. You know, it's theater. These guys are saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do all this terrible stuff," and then the other guy's like, "Oh no, you can't do all this terrible stuff." Well, okay, I guess you'll have to do this terrible stuff.
And it's not even just in our homes, but if you go to like a hotel, if you go out to the mall, or the TVs are playing MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. If you go to the gym, that's what they're playing in front of your treadmill.
Yeah,
it's all over the place.
These bubbles were constructed too, by the way. These were constructed by the people who want to control these different people. And what do they use? They use carrots and sticks, right? So they use the carrot is the delicious little, hey, you know, we're Democrats or we're Republicans. We're, you know, we're really for the side of good and stuff like that. You should be with us. And then the stick is the fear that keeps them in. It's like, think of the bubble, but the bubble is charged with electricity. And if you try to get out of the bubble, bzz, you can't do it because of the fear. You're afraid to go past that barrier. Now, what I wanted to do was watch a little bit more of this, and because this is where Franco goes into the history, more or less, the inhuman evolution propaganda.
Before we get into why people fall for propaganda and how to see through it, we must understand the human evolutionary reason for why propaganda exists in the first place. Human beings are naturally wired to form groups and trust our group leaders. Part of why propaganda exists and works so effectively. Evolutionarily speaking, the need to bond with others for mutual survival has ingrained in us an in-group versus out-group mentality. This is something propaganda exploits to rally support for a cause, especially by painting others as a threat, a tactic that has roots in our tribal past. Social identity theory, as proposed by Tajvel, explains how these divisions are created and manipulated to unify people against a perceived enemy. Humans are also predisposed to trust authority figures, a trait that was once essential for group survival. This instinct evolved into trusting leaders and experts in our modern world. Propaganda exploits this by using well-known figures or celebrities as trusted messengers. Studies like the elaboration likelihood model, as proposed by Petty and Kakiopo, show how we are more likely to be persuaded by someone we view as an authority or by someone that we admire, without critically questioning the message. On top of that, our brain relies on cognitive shortcuts or heuristics to save mental energy, which can make us more susceptible to persuasive messaging. These shortcuts, like availability bias or effective reasoning, allow propaganda to bypass our critical thinking and tap directly into our emotions, making us accept information without much scrutiny. Canaham's work shows how these biases shape our decisions. In other words, we don't want to spend so much time researching and trying to figure out the truth for ourselves. We would much prefer to have a shortcut by having somebody give us the information. We like it when people just give us the news.
Exactly. Yeah. There's that piece right there goes to critical thinking skills, right? How critical thinking skills have been just worn down, eroded to the point where people just, whenever they do try to think outside the box about something, a lot of times they can't do it because they're so immersed in all of this, just steeped and like they're in a quicksand, right? In the stuff that they've believed for, you know, however old they are. Like I said, the older they are, the more they've been propagandized, and the harder it's going to be to get them out of that, you know? So, I mean, with this historical kind of precedent, as far as like you were talking about in the video, Franco, about like hunters and like groups of people who were, fear has been a controlling factor for as long as humans have been around. You want to,
that other tribe's trying to kill us. You know, we got to get
that
together.
Other tribe, you know, I know our tribe sucks, but their tribe is so much worse, right?
But also this, all the life experiences that they would have with each other through like hunting or whatever bonding events they would have. And so they would develop trust with people. And there would be people there that would be seen as like the celebrity of the tribe. And so they're thinking, oh, if like this person who I really trust, who's really good at hunting, who's really strong, has taught me a lot of things, if he's believing this, then I have reason to also believe what he's saying and give him the benefit of the doubt, or give her the benefit of the doubt. So it makes sense why this stuff exists, but we just have to evolve past that, because we also have to acknowledge, what if they're wrong?
Yeah. I mean, what if they're wrong, right? And how do we do that? How do we let's say, okay, let's have a little example here. Let's say any one of us here tonight, we're talking to a good friend that we've known forever. They're kind of the opposite of how you are politically, and you may think they might be going down a dark road, listening to these cult leaders, these political cult leaders and whatnot. How do we tell these people in a loving way that they're doing something very destructive to themselves and society as a whole when they do that with other people? How do we get through to these people?
What do you guys think? I got my thoughts, but I want to hear from Jerry and Ed.
I got nothing. I've tried. I think, okay, so maybe there is a way, and I think it has to do with being patient. And when people do decide to jump on you and criticize you because they identify you as being on one team, accepting their criticisms and saying, yeah, I own that. You're right about that. And I gently toss it back. So what are you doing to like hold your team, your party accountable the way I'm doing this right now, accepting the flaws and acknowledging them and saying, yeah, I'd like to see improvement, and holding, you know, I don't want to say party, but my alignment to accountability. You know, as suddenly Sanders is coming out talking about maybe organizing a third party. How many times has that Lucy with the football scenario played out, where it's like, I think that Bernie Sanders is a good man, but I can't trust him anymore. And every time he trots out now, you know, haven't people learn their lesson? I'm critical of people who are suddenly jumping on the bandwagon. Sanders is we need to start aligning with him again. Do we? Can we really trust? Although on this flip side, not to take this in a completely different direction, but just as a point of reference here, it's like, I don't know what other options there might be. I would only hope he's sincere. I don't trust he is. And I don't trust he is because I'm holding our side accountable for pulling the football away from us every time we thought that there was going to be some gains on the field towards, policies and issues that were going to improve people, the average American's lives, the working class, healthcare, everything else. So bringing it back around, I think maybe being patient, acknowledging the flaws of the group we align with, to toss it back. Are you willing to be accountable as I am, to demand better from your quote unquote side as I am? And that might open the door to them not feeling you're attacking them because of their affiliation, but maybe get them to start thinking about that. I think we're so, not myself, but in the past, I would admit that I was so geared towards being defensive, and anybody attacking the views of the side I align with. No, I'm like, no, listen, because I've accepted that my quote unquote side that I align with has betrayed me, betrayed the people that believed in them. So, because I think I've kind of reached that higher level of understanding, I guess telegraphing that might get people to think, oh, wow, he's taking the time to accept responsibility. He's not arguing with me or attacking me back the way I attack him. That helps, I think, maybe bring the level of discourse to a more respectable and listening level.
Ed, what do you think?
What was the question again? I think.
How do you save somebody from being propagandized?
Yeah, it was. It's a challenge. It continues to be a challenge because first you're just trying to convince them of the moral ground that you're trying to stand on, right? I mean, I gave up on the duopoly, after they cheated Bernie the first time, and then I started to wake up to the fact that, well, maybe he wasn't really, didn't really have his heart in on it in the first one. He certainly didn't in the second one. And it was quite clear to me that at that point it was, he was going to he's basically neutered. He's going to say all the right things policy-wise for the rhetoric, but do very little in order to enact those things, not use the leverage that he needs to use, not push very hard. I know I saw Blue Moon Red Wine in the chat over there saying they're going to try to run Bernie in 2028. I don't think so. I think at some point Bernie's going to see the writing on the wall and realize that they're not buying my bullshit anymore. I guess I better retire.
Zell said it best, or Liana said it best. Bernie can't fill a booth at Denny's now.
Yeah.
So, and it's sad to have to admit that too, because it's like, but he squandered his moment when he could have done this.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds good, but how are you going to do it now when you had all of that momentum years ago and you didn't take advantage and seize that opportunity? Personally, I think he was protecting whatever things were going on with his wife's foundation.
So just really quick, I mean, not to make this all about Bernie, but if he's even hinting that he's considering doing anything like a dirty break or anything at this point, it's just rhetoric. There's no reason to even take him seriously at this point. But back to the how do we convince people thing? How do we get them to start to break out of their bubbles? I don't think there's a whole lot you can really do except try and show patience, like you guys have said. I don't have a lot of that. But also just to try, you can't grab the steering wheel. You have to just kind of suggest that they take an off ramp once in a while. You're gonna, to use car metaphors. But I don't really know what the answer is, because I'm still struggling to figure out how to properly communicate with friends and family that other than the stuff that I tried to do when I was regularly streaming, talking about the kayfabe, talking about how it's not your fault that you've been propagandized. It's okay to admit that you were, and try to move forward from that, because at a certain point everybody's getting propagandized because we're so saturated by it in social media, in television, in radio, even in movies and television. You can't watch movies or television without being propagandized, because the military industrial complex is all over that stuff. That you want to use our jets and planes and tanks and stuff in your movie. Okay, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to show it this way, you got to use X number of our military in your shots, or whatever, whatever types of requirements that they make you make in order to do your Top Gun 7 movie or whatever movie you want to make. So we have to, while we continue to battle the propaganda and try to figure out how to break our friends and family out from it, I guess the best thing we can do is just try to support each other in our efforts to do that, which is this show is a good step, I would say.
We'll see.
Can I mention, I'm looking at the live chat. Rick Solis brings up a really good point. First, you got to point out the hypocrisy of both parties, but that has to be with a willing participant that's willing to listen when things get bad to worse. They might be more attentive.
Franco, what I know you put it in the video here, but what are your ideas for helping to break through that bubble for people?
We first have to be focusing on ourselves and making sure that we're seeing through other forms of propaganda, because then it's just going to be like how we see people arguing red versus blue. How do you know you're not still in that? So we have to be focusing on that. But if you know, based on evidence that you found, that somebody else is wrong about an issue, then present them with that evidence. And if they're not seeing it, then there's not really that much more you can do. It depends on the person. Like, you don't try to make it like your job to try to change this person. It's gonna, at the end of the day, it's on them to change themselves. So like it really depends on who this person is. Like is it your spouse? Is it worth the effort? Is it your parents, your family members? Do you feel like it's worth the effort there? You can also ask yourself, is it maybe just a phase that they're going through right now, and eventually they'll see through it? Just challenge them, like ask them questions. like try to point out the logic, the fallacies, which we'll get into later, in the things that they're saying. Like, why do you believe this? And then if it's not making sense, just be like, oh, well, that's interesting. Look at this information right here. It's contradicting what you're saying. How can you deny this evidence that's being presented here versus like what you're telling me right now?
You mentioned the fallacies.
Yeah.
Ed put this in our show chat earlier. So this is the periodic table of logical fallacies, which I found to be quite funny. I love the was it the Mogwai? Is that what these guys are called?
This is excellent.
You have ad hominem, attacking an opponent rather than their argument.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, these are great because they have examples too. They said we can't trust this mouth-breathing dummy.
Like if you criticize Elon Musk, if you were to criticize like a Democrat, or if you were to criticize Kamala Harris, they'll be like, yeah, well, what are you doing? Are you putting in the effort that Kamala Harris put in to get to where she is? It's like, what does that have to do with me pointing out with what she's doing right now and supporting genocide?
Although the idea of Elon Musk buying MSNBC because it's on the block is rather terrifying also, because you're going to get the entire opposite side of the propaganda spectrum.
Although if he does end up buying MSNBC, he'll probably shut it down and turn it into a Krispy Kreme or something like that. At least I hope so.
Like how he's trying to turn X into a banking system.
Have you seen memes of the NBC Peacock with InfoWars underneath it? MSNBC to Alex Jones. Great.
That Rachel Maddow, I swear to God, I'm glad she's not on this network anymore. I'm glad we took this over. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Elon Musk for taking over this heathen liberal cesspool. I like me. I like to have sex with my wife. Sorry.
That's a great impression, Warren. So what's the story behind his voice? Are we to believe he actually gargles gravel?
Oh my God.
He gargles something, girl. You know what I'm saying? Stop it. No, I'm saying he's a Texas guy. You know, he kind of sounds like Sam Kinison a little bit. Cause Sam Kinison kind of had that same kind of voice too. You know, so little mister. But yeah, you had like this thing over here, like I said, the ad hominems. You can't be going up to Bubba down south and saying, "Hey, dumbass, you should stop voting for
fallacy.
these people."
Never heard of that one.
The who? The gambler's
fallacy?
The
gambler's fallacy, yeah.
Claiming that a random event is more or less likely due to past outcomes. Our luck has to change. Magical thinking's my favorite. Claiming an imagined casual link between unrelated events. A blue moon is a good time to invest.
You see that in the meme stock online culture.
A non sequitur. Yeah, they should teach these to kids so that
the non sequitur, a statement, evidence, or a conclusion that doesn't follow logic. I do a lot of non sequiturs, by the way, but just for fun. I'm just amateur. I haven't gone pro yet. Cats are better than dogs because apples aren't oranges. Yeah, ha ha he, but there is this confusion factor when you try to talk to some of these people and they spin all this rhetoric at you that you don't really know what to believe, but you're like, oh, he's a decent enough guy. I'll believe whatever he says. I don't know what the fuck he said, but I'll believe it. You know, that kind of thing, because of the ease. They don't want to challenge anybody. They don't want to be challenged. Because they've been put in this bubble and they've been set to be comfortable in this bubble and don't go outside the bubble because, that whole thinking for yourself thing, we don't really, we kind of frown upon that around here, that kind of thing. So, you're going to have, you're going to have people who are constantly, just like snake oil salesmen from back in the day, or these people, the rain men that would come around and say, make it rain, and they take everybody's money and they split town. And then, it's like, then people don't know what to believe until something fearful comes along and shocks them into some sort of conformity. And then they're back to square one. So, let's see, there was one thing on here I wanted to see. You talk about the 4 psychological mechanisms the U.S. uses. Can you kind of like nutshell that? What do you mean by the 4 psychological mechanisms?
So I brought up confirmation bias, which I'm sure everyone here knows what that's all about. I brought up social proof and peer pressure, like how they try to group us all together into these different cults, and then these cults try to like make us feel bad when we try to question the narrative that their group is accepting. Then there's emotional manipulation, which we talked about earlier, which is about like fear and anxiety, like making you fear the other side, and then that's how they can get people to buy into certain narratives. Getting people to fear other countries or getting people to fear immigrants. And then number 4 is the simplification or the need for certainty. Like people can be mentally lazy. They're working all day long, and then they come home and then they just don't want to put in the mental effort to do all the research, go down these different rabbit holes. And so they prefer for someone to just like give them the information, and then they just don't question it enough.
Do you think people have been put sociologically in a position to where they're not able to have the more or less the energy to go look for information for themselves, where it's like your job puts you in a position where, you know, you can't do anything to risk getting fired because, you know, you got a family, you got kids, you know, all their insurance or health insurance relies on that job. So it's like they've got you stuck with that kind of stuff. So, and at the same time, while you're stuck, you're not allowed to say certain things, especially about the company that's doing that to you, or even the industry that it's in, because then you're shitting where you eat, as the phrase goes, and you can't do that. So a lot of people will just clam up and not say anything about it. There's one more here I wanted to play that you mentioned here in the thing. And this is, so this one is how to see through propaganda.
Yeah, the solutions. With that out of the way, let's get into how you can see through propaganda. How can you lift your awareness to prevent yourself from being manipulated by people who are pushing propaganda? One of the best defenses against propaganda is to, number 1, develop strong critical thinking skills. This means questioning the information you receive, analyzing its sources, and looking for any biases or hidden agendas behind it. Critical thinking isn't just about doubting everything, because that would just make you cynical. It's about assessing evidence, recognizing logical fallacies, and being aware of how language can be used to manipulate emotions.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too. It's like you don't have to doubt everything. I like that part of the video where you see people will say, well, you're just cynical, you're a nihilist. It's like you can't come off as being someone like that, because then you're not going to get through to that person anyway. They're not going to listen to you because they think you're just like a gloom and doomer. But you know, if you're presenting facts and you're using these critical thinking skills, and you're saying, hey, look, this is, you know, item A, this is so-and-so, item B, this is so-and-so, item C. And it's like, it's not nihilistic. It's like, we're just trying to change things. And it's very frustrating when people don't listen because they're afraid to listen, or they don't want to listen, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. By sharpening your ability to think critically, you'll be better equipped to see through the narratives being pushed on you, whether they come from media outlets, advertisers, or even social media influencers and news commentators. Remember, the goal isn't to reject all information, but to evaluate it with a discerning eye. Not only must you be aware of others' biases, but you also have to be aware of your own and acknowledge the possibility that you could be wrong. Propaganda often targets our emotions, using fear, anger, or even hope to influence our thoughts and actions. So for number 2, you must develop emotional awareness. Becoming aware of your emotional triggers can help you recognize when someone is trying to manipulate you. For example, if a news story or a social media post is making you feel a strong emotional reaction, take a step back and question why. Are they trying to scare you, guilt you, or rally you behind a cause? Understanding your own emotional responses can act as a filter, allowing you to see past emotional manipulation and focus on the facts. By cultivating emotional intelligence, you not only protect yourself from being easily swayed, but also gain a clearer perspective on what's truly important.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like some people. So I always tell people when it comes to when they're going to communicate with people like that, you have to check your emotions when it comes to that kind of stuff, because you'll tend to want to get frustrated with the person. You may not be patient enough with them because you know how important this information is, that they're being propagandized, they're being used, they're a pawn in this giant societal game of control. And but they don't want to give up their goodies, they don't want to give up all their good stuff, and they think that's what's going to happen, that everything's going to be lost. And it's like, well, you don't have to be lost, you don't have to lose everything, but you just have to keep an eye and ear open and just be aware of your surroundings. I don't think people are like that much these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
maybe it's the fact that we're putting our face in the phones. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the phones. Yeah, social media and that kind of thing. And you'll find there's a lot, if you're a Twitter user or any kind of social media user, and you start to see in your timeline really shocking things that people are posting, they're doing that for a reason. Sometimes they're doing it just to be shocking. Other times they're doing it because there's a monetary reason. Like, for example, on Twitter, the more engagement you get on a post, the more you have the opportunity to get paid by Elon. So people go on Twitter with the specific intent of shocking or outraging people, just to get people to reply or respond. And so we're dealing with, there's people who are using that as an opportunity to make money. And then there's also people who just, they're going to respond out of fear or out of anger, because it's very easy when we're all propagandized to have when you have your worldview challenged, all of a sudden there you go going, oh no, that can't possibly be true, or why are you saying this is totally wrong. And then people don't want that much of a challenge in their normal everyday life. They just want to have their regular life. Ignorance is bliss is the phrase that comes to mind. People, they just want to go on with their lives a lot of times. And so it's very hard to try and break people out of their bubble, because you're making them uncomfortable. You could be breaking them out of their ignorance bubble, but then they have to start thinking critically about stuff, and they don't want to. They're like, oh, why do I have to think about this? I just want to go and have my good times. I'll go and do my job. I come home, I go to dinner, I take my friends out on the weekends, and we don't want you to break us out of that bubble. We like it here in the Matrix.
Yeah. It's the red pill, blue pill. I'm too uncomfortable. It's too awkward for me to face or consider. This is just too disruptive to my state of consciousness and what I have been indoctrinated to believe.
I mean, and then what it all boils down to is comfort. I mean, think about it. Since I can remember my dad talking about the days of the Great Depression back in the 20s in the last century, and and how those generations were supposedly supposed to work, pay it forward to the next generations, and that a lot of times they made our lives comfortable. I say ours, I mean the Americans made their lives comfortable as we got to the 40s and 50s. After World War II, when there was like, you had your rate of production was closer to the wages, and where everybody was able to buy a house and go to school and stuff like that. It was like a golden era for society. Well, except for people of color, of course. But if you had the money, you could do it. But nowadays, it's like none of those things are possible unless you have some sort of, I don't know, sugar daddy or sugar mama or something like that, or some sort of, or you were already born into wealth, that sort of thing.
Generational wealth. Generational
wealth. Yeah. And I love how those rich little spoil bitches, like, you don't know what work is like. And it's like, what do you do? You're just a rich spoil kid. I just want to check the last two things here that he says here.
I give
the last three. What's that?
I give 3. Yeah.
Yeah, 3. The last 3 things. So let's check these out.
Knowledge is power when it comes to resisting propaganda. So number 3 is educate yourself. Educate yourself on history, media tactics, and the ways in which propaganda has been used in the past to shape public opinion. The more you understand how these techniques work, the easier it will be for you to spot them in action. This doesn't necessarily mean you need to become an expert, but being well read on topics like logical fallacies, persuasion tactics, and the history of propaganda can make you less vulnerable to manipulation. When you know how propaganda operates, you become a more informed person, capable of making decisions based on truth rather than manipulation. Another way to see through propaganda is to number 4, engage in open dialogue with others and maintain a healthy level of skepticism. This doesn't mean being cynical or dismissing everything as fake news, but rather questioning information and discussing it with a variety of perspectives. When you talk to people who have different viewpoints, you can uncover biases you might not have seen on your own. Healthy skepticism means asking the right questions. Who benefits from this message? What's the evidence? Why is this being presented in a certain way? By fostering open conversation and critical inquiry, you can break through the echo chambers and see the bigger picture. Last but certainly not least, because I've been saying this for years, if you've been subscribed to this channel for a long time, and if you're new, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. What I have been saying is to number 5, diversify your sources. Do not just listen to one outlet or similar outlets who all repeat the same information. Do not only listen to mainstream news. Do not only listen to one government-sponsored news from one country. Look at multiple outlets. Look at the evidence being presented. How do these different narratives conflict? Keyword, narrative. Again, this requires you to be aware of biases and to separate facts from opinions. Separate the facts from the narrative. Certain opinions and biases will motivate people to only present information that is convenient for the news presenter's ego, creating a narrative. Look for the evidence, and I would advise to not waste so much time listening to narratively focused outlets, whether they are mainstream or alternative. If you could get the same information from other sources that present that information in a more valuable way, with more nuance and evidence, you would be saving yourself a lot of wasted time and prevent yourself from being manipulated by someone's biases and selfish gains.
Excellent. Yep. Yeah.
Well said.
I mean, and those are just common sense things too, really, if you think about it. Educate yourself. Don't wait to be educated by other people. I mean, you would think
nothing there was that like completely novel, right?
Not really. I mean, that's just like you could apply those tactics to anything really in human life too, you know, not just trying to convince people they're being propagandized, you know, just, you know, forming relationships and forming groups of people that, you know, that are, you know, communities and whatnot. And that's how communities get together, with people just talking to each other. Right. I mean, I keep bringing up the South, you know, because I grew up in a very small town out in a rural area where people basically knew everybody else. But whenever hard times would happen, like a big storm would come through or something, knock out the power, knock down some trees or something, people became socialists. You would see people helping each other. It was the craziest shit.
Disaster brings everyone together that way, right?
It really does. They could all be wearing, somebody would be wearing a Biden hat, somebody be wearing a MAGA hat, and they'd be sitting there sawing logs, trying to get them off the road and stuff like that. It's like these common instances that bring people together like that. We shouldn't have to wait for a natural disaster. We need to find a way to find that kind of communication with people without that. And that's what's difficult. Yeah.
That understanding every day. That empathy, you know what it is, Warren? It's the empathy factor.
Mm-hmm.
For people to constantly be in touch with their empathy. If people were more in touch with their empathy constantly, I think it's, as opposed to like we're all collectively affected by a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were trying to signal me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
we hear you.
Oh, okay. So instead of all of us suddenly reacting and treating everyone well because we're collectively affected by a disaster, why don't we like focus on having empathy for everyone every day? If everybody did that, what a wonderful world it would be.
Yeah.
Walking everyone
Well, I
else
mean,
through.
why don't we have empathy for people? Because when we seem to be so bombarded with shit, our own personal shit, we can't look outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
To have that empathy for other people, even for a lot of times, even for people that we really care about, we're just so we're just like like we're in a car crusher, right? Just being squeezed, and it's just like we don't, all we want to do is just lash out instead of trying to communicate with one another. It's
Because
more
that
like
outrage-
reaction than action.
Because our outrage is stoked all the time by the very propaganda outlets we're talking about, triggering us, provoking us. It's not your fault, it's somebody else's fault. So when we're constantly dealing with our own problems and constantly message it's someone else's fault, be angry at that. Be angry at the migrants. Be angry at the gay people. Be angry at the toxic males or old white men, whatever it is. It's like it in every faction. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be angry all the time, as opposed to, well, why don't you start thinking about the other person's world and try to find common ground? It's what Jimmy Dore says. If the left and the right or different factions were able to focus on that common ground, which is, I think that is finding the common ground is inspired by having empathy for the other person and finding what brings you together as opposed to what separates you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But that's, we're influenced because of what we're tuned into. We're not, but too many people are influenced by what they're particularly tuned into, their echo chambers, that prevents that or stunts it.
Yeah. We're continuously saturated by propaganda. So it's really hard for us to try and dig through and find that external empathy that a lot of people try to internalize for the most part just to survive. I wanted to give everybody a homework assignment of sorts, but this is an easy one, and it's not hard. Just go to your search engine and look up Rockefellers and how they created the American Medical Association.
Yeah.
You will
I read
learn
about this the other day.
Essentially, the American Medical Association was created by a series of coordinated propaganda by the Rockefellers and the oil industry.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we're in the mess we're in now with the way pharmaceuticals are constantly being pushed at us, and how basically the entire medical industrial complex that exists now is because they wanted to try and find a way to do something with petroleum other than make fuel for vehicles.
Yeah, they demonized like traditional medicine that was used by a lot of natives, even though those things work. Yeah, holistic medication.
Oh, how demonized has holistic medicine been over the last few decades?
They
and now
call it pseudoscience.
Yeah,
and now it's finally coming to the forefront where it's like actually like stuffs like cannabis and hemp and like other different types of natural things are actually doing something medicinally. I think we may have learned a lot of people may have learned their lesson during the pandemic when they found out that it turns out ivermectin actually does some good shit. It actually does, relieve some of these symptoms and stuff like that. And it wasn't just horse pace.
It's incredible now in hindsight, Warren, how just what a big fucking lie was propagated that way. If you were taking ivermectin, you were taking horse medicine. You know what? There are antibiotics for animals as well as antibiotics for human beings. Right? So does that mean if we take antibiotics because animals take it, we're taking animal medicine? That's just how they framed the whole outcry against ivermectin when it was a Nobel Prize-winning drug that treated so many maladies and apparently had an impact on being able to treat some people.
Or vitamins. Like we need the same kind of vitamins that animals need. Yeah, different amounts, but we still, like, our physiology is so similar.
Yeah, mammals.
Yeah, and if you're like me and you like to cook, you find you start to discover that some of the herbs and spices that are used in certain types of foods may have originated as attempts to do natural medicine
Yeah.
for things, and then they just happen to taste good. So, oh yeah, let's put this on the chicken, or let's mix this into a beverage, and then so a lot of the natural stuff that you're eating today, that especially the like maybe Asian foods, Indian foods, you'll find all like curries and other types of spice mixes. Many of them have medicinal purposes to them. If you look up the different ingredients and you check online to find out what types of things that these things treat. I'll give an example. Turmeric, for example, the also known as curcumin. But turmeric, it's this yellow spice. Okay, you can buy it as a supplement, as like capsules, to take it daily with your vitamins or whatever. But people like. Turmeric is used, part of spice mix in a lot of like Indian and Asian dishes and stuff. Turmeric is a natural anti-inflammatory. I started taking them maybe a decade or two ago as an alternative to Aleve. Now, I'm not a doctor. You talk to your doctors and do your own research for that. But I can tell you,
don't sue us.
I can tell you from personal experience, it got rid of all my arthritis.
Dr.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
Leanna,
go ahead, man.
I was going to say, Leanna took the words out of my mouth about oregano oil. I was like, I got to bring up oregano oil. But yeah, it's a natural antibiotic. Like if you have a stomach bug, you can take oregano oil and it can help to kill like H. pylori or E. coli or whatever other stomach issue you're dealing with. But yeah, like you can make your own homemade cough syrup. It's honey, black pepper, cayenne pepper, cinnamon can also help with that. Even things like cranberry juice. It's so helpful when it comes to killing off viruses or killing off bacteria.
Oh, that's quack talk, Franco. That's total quack talk. You got to use a pharmaceutical.
Well, the reason why ivermectin was so demonized is because they couldn't make a shit ton of money off of it. Exactly. If they could have made a shit ton of money off of ivermectin, you would have never heard that horse paste bullshit.
Yeah.
You never would have heard that shit. It's all about the money, folks. It's all about the money. Y'all know that. Y'all smart chat. Y'all know that shit. Come on, son. It's all about the money. Well, guys, we could probably talk about this all night, but we're on Turkey Day Eve. I know you guys got plans tomorrow.
I still got to go buy pumpkin pie for our dinner tomorrow night, and I know Walmart's open till 11. I got some time, but
yeah. Before we go, let's quick round the horn here. What you guys doing for Turkey Day tomorrow? You go ahead, Ed. You're the cookie.
Oh.
You're the cookie guy.
I was looking for a turkey at the Aldi, hoping they'd have one on sale, and I turned around and they didn't have too many turkeys left, but they had Peking duck at Aldi. I was like, okay, I've never done that before. That sounds like a challenge. So
are you gonna cut the head off before the dinner like they did in Christmas Story in that with Christmas?
Yeah, I mean that was the first thing that hit my head. I'm like, oh, Christmas Story, perfect. I don't know. I'm still defrosting them, so I don't know what they're gonna look like when I unwrap them. But I don't think there's a head on them that I'm aware of. But I'll let you know if there is. I'll post photos.
Franco, what's going on East Coast, buddy?
Gonna see my family, and I'm tasked with making mac and cheese. I'm really excited to make that.
Mac and cheese, yeah. Mac and cheese. People don't like mac and cheese. Get off our fucking planet. All right. Nobody likes you.
No,
nobody ever did.
You know, Warren. It's okay. I'll have their mac and cheese.
Yeah, I know, right? Jerry, you got big plans tomorrow too.
Yeah, my sister's hosting our families including my parents. Thankfully, they're still with us. They're strong and healthy in their 80s. And my nephews and niece who are in from college. It's, the best time to be able to reconnect with everybody who are spread out the rest of the year. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I always look forward to family events, especially when you're lucky to still have them in your life. So That's what Thanksgiving should be about. Not the turkeys, not the pilgrims, but making sure
Exactly.
we can keep our bonds together.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing my usual routine of going door to door, pretending I'm the meter reader, and make them feel sorry for me because I have to work on Thanksgiving. So then I get free food.
Can see that.
You know, I'm not ashamed of it. In fact, I teach a course on it. So look online, folks. I put Franco's video link in the chat for this. Be sure to check out that video and all his videos on there. Franco's been doing a really good job.
Thank you.
Well, no problem. I mean, because you're veering from the normal, regular, everyday politics. That's all we hear in this space. And it's all well and good, but it's just like, so oversaturated. We need some answers. We need some solutions. And the videos that you provide do help a great deal. So I encourage everybody to check out his channel. And of course, check out Chicago Corner too. Making a comeback, gentlemen, are we? Huh? We're going to see you guys again pretty soon. Got a little taste the other day.
Slowly but surely. And, you talked to the point a moment ago, Chicago Corner last year, all we were talking about, politics, coming up with some solutions. But I guess we can briefly talk about it here. One of the reasons, I needed to take a break from it, maybe not Ed as much, but last December around this time of year, literally all we were talking about bi-weekly last December, the migrant crisis and dead kids in Gaza. And I'm just like, and we're trying to figure, logically, we know what solutions are. They're war criminals and reforming immigration so that we can entertain taking care of migrants as well as taking care of our urban communities that were outraged because there wasn't money here in Chicago. But yeah, but then we're trying to talk about solutions, but are we pissing in the wind because nothing's changing? I think with enough of a break from that, Warren, we came back after the election because we had to talk about what was going on. And I think in time, we'll slowly start broadcasting a little bit more because I love this space and I'm really grateful you invited me on tonight because I love talking with my friends and discussing, I guess, more solutions rather than getting outraged over what's happening in news and politics. Although there's a lot to get outraged about, we got to figure out how the hell do we start kickstarting things into motion and there's some, I think there's some progress on the fact that this election, again, not thrilled I'm not a huge fan of Trump, but the Democrats got fucking shellacked. And it's like, enough's fucking enough. We're teaching you your lesson. You've betrayed us so many times. Get your shit in order or you're never going to have the reins of power again. Start doing things for people, for us, leftists, workers, anybody that is suffering if you ever want to be in a position of power again. That's the good thing that came out of this, as much as maybe it's going to get worse under Trump. Maybe not. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, he's a populist. It's interesting to see, how populism succeeds. Just imagine where we'd be if the populism of Bernie Sanders had been embraced by the left back when they had the opportunity to. Throw us some health care. Throw us some benefits. No, they had to keep that all away from us because the elites needed to control that party. Look where that got these fuckers. But
can you imagine how pissed off DemCorp would be if Trump took funds out of the Space Force budget and gave everybody health care?
So we're going to try to do more shows. Thank you for asking. I've missed it, but this is a great place to kind of get our feet wet again, to be in the space.
Franco, what's on the horizon for your channel and for you too?
Some more of the stuff that we just saw today, just how society programs us. Like I had a video on how society programs us through social media algorithms, how the music industry tries to program us. That's why I've covered stuff on the Diddy case and stuff about Jay-Z, Beyonce, because the way the media expands out through entertainment and these messages that they put out there and who they select to keep us distracted with, they try to lower our conscious level through simplistic music as opposed to putting out music that will raise our conscious level and educate us. Like, music is supposed to be about like rebellion and something spiritual, but now the music industry is trying to reduce it into something materialistic, something that's capitalist friendly and corporate friendly. Right? So I like talking about these different stuff, and the goal was always to try to help people out. Initially I thought that it could be done by just promoting, like I thought Bernie was going to help us, but I was in that mentality of looking for a savior. But I realized that we just got to be our own savior. Yep. And that's why I do the videos that I do now on that's more self-help focused.
And Franco, if it wasn't Bernie, who might it be? I don't think it's going to be Steiner or anybody in the Green Party as much as they're trying, because they just can't get their shit together state by state. It's like Bernie was the authentic populist, whereas Trump, I think, was the phony snake oil salesman populist. Although, again, he did a few good things, but the venality of Trump is what turns me off to him. But if not Bernie, I just where do we look?
It's gonna have to be a whole conscious revolution. All of us are just gonna have to become more aware of ourselves. It's not gonna be signed either, because like, to be honest, like, these third parties are not serious enough. They're not talking about election integrity enough, and I think that if they were actually pushing them, we're actually a threat. I think that the government would step in and they'd be JFK'd or something. JFK, Malcolm X.
I mean, it's like I've been saying forever. It's like you can't, even if voting actually was a thing that could happen, it's not going to work on top of this current system that we have. We have to change. We have to fundamentally change the system, and that means we're going to have to crush these wedges that are put between us, that's keeping us divided. Once the people get together, and something is going to bring the people together one way or another, even if you have to look up and see a big fucking rock come out of the sky, it's going to bring people together eventually. But in the meantime, we have to find ways of getting people to that point and not letting them stay comfortable in these bubbles, I believe. So
it's either going to be Don't Look Up or Disclosure.
And thank you to Laney for the $2. Appreciate you.
World War III coming up.
We're like a bunch of kids all confused, and a lot of us are getting like manipulated through these different propaganda outlets and these different cults and stuff. So we all just have to be more aware about that, about how we can be vulnerable to these different groups. And then we can actually reach that utopian society we're all trying to seek, right? It might not be in our generation, but we can work towards that in the meantime and help each other out and continue to educate ourselves.
It's not hard. It's just, like you said, it's just common sense stuff, but some people have just gotten the common sense knocked out of their heads, and it's just, we got to help them get it. We got to help them get it back. So,
I find myself getting excited about the UFO disclosure stuff, and every other day I see somebody posting a video or a photo and going, "Oh, hey, we saw this sphere in the UK, and here's video," and I'm like, and I get excited, and I'm like, okay, I got to realize that this is probably not real, and I got to put my skeptic hat on and go, okay, I can be excited, but at the same time understand it may or may not be real, or it may be part of a large, elaborate amount of propaganda to distract us from something else.
And it's real. I
want to believe that.
Yeah. No, the last round of congressional hearings I was excited about, although after 11 hours of more testimony, we still didn't have any answers. But I'm heartened by the fact that Congress people are pissed off about what's been hidden from us, and clearly something's been hidden from us. I think it's all related to the possibilities of technology affecting macroeconomics, and if it is, with whatever craft retrievals might be reverse engineered by these aerospace contractors. There's so much that society could have benefited from, and I think that's why the stuff's hidden. But that's a whole other live stream, Warren. We need to about that soon.
These aliens are too smart for us. They don't want to like intervene or reveal themselves because they see us as way too primitive.
If they haven't already been here forever, though, Franco. I mean, so much of what I'm seeing in documentaries are that, again, not to jump down a rabbit hole for too long, but where we are is the result of a great worldwide flood that many cultures have documented or talked about in their ancient, scriptures or writings. What preceded that great flood that may have existed or might still be under our oceans right now? I don't even know if they're from space. I think they're here in areas of the world that not many people get to. And I think that, the idea of what we're seeing might have more to do with interdimensional travel.
There's so much to that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
They could be vibrating at a different frequency, and that's why we can't see them.
Yep.
Or vibrating too low.
They might be here right now. I think our cats see them, because anytime I'm in my bed at night and I hear my cat in the kitchen meowing at something, I'm like, he sees something, because cats don't vocalize when they're around, or unless they are around and communicating with something or a being. So it's like maybe they're tuned into that frequency we're talking about.
Maybe they also see your spirit guides.
Yeah.
Could be.
Well,
in any event, it's even higher dimensional beings need to get out of the bubble as well. So see how I did it? I brought it full circle. You guys tried to take it off road. I said, no, we're going back. We got to go to the highway. We got to get to the hotel. We go camping later. We got to get to the house. Guys, I appreciate you, each and every one of you, for coming on tonight. I knew this was going to be a good discussion, particularly with our backgrounds and the work that you've been doing, Franco, and the continue works that have inspired me to do that as well. Like on my show, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, morning extra, 11 a.m. Eastern. We try to provide just straight news and none of this sit on a topic for 5-10 minutes and just beat it to death and then go to the next one just to hear myself talk.
Or talk about what other people are saying and show all
the inception where it's like you got a screen and then that person's talking about somebody and then you're talking about that person talking about somebody. It's like,
gossip of the internet community. That channel said this, that channel said that.
Oh my God, I'm so glad we don't do that.
Clout chasing grifters.
Well, I will say this, and to end it, that if you're going to communicate with people, for one thing, you better be fucking sincere, and you better not be lying to them, because the people will find out if you're lying to them or not. If you're consistently honest with people, chances are, even if they have the hardest walls put up in front of them, eventually those walls will break down because you've been consistent, you've been honest with them, and then they start to have a trust with you. And then now you can start talking about these hard issues that you couldn't before when there was this giant wall between you. So we got to break down the walls. We got to hone our communication skills, and we got to be able to talk to people that we're not comfortable talking to. And we will be surprised of some of the positive things that we'll get out of it. So, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving, Turkey Day, whatever the hell you celebrate. Black Friday's coming. I don't celebrate Black Friday because I'm not racist and I don't like to appropriate culture. So because I'm a honky. Anyway, folks, might do some gaming tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. But whatever you do, have fun, enjoy yourselves. I will see you on maybe Friday morning. We'll see. You guys got anything coming up? What about you, Franco? Any big videos coming up that you want to?
Yeah, I recorded one already. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure I'll see it soon, right? Ed, Jerry, what about you guys? What's the future plans in this media space?
Well, Warren, I've been producing a show called Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. I got 2 episodes in the can, and then I'm kind of working on the 3rd one, but I realized that it needs a little more production value. So I'm going to try to do as much as I can, but I wanted originally to do a weekly. I don't think that's feasible. So it'll be on when it's on, and I'll definitely let you know, which means everybody who tunes into Uncle Warren will find out when the next Chuck's UFO show is on the air. It's funny and ridiculous. It's got its own share of propaganda, but it's intergalactic propaganda. and I hope
the best
that you
kind.
will. I hope you will enjoy.
And Jerry,
I would say anybody watching, just go search, like, and subscribe to Chicago Corner, and you'll get updates as we do more live streams and start programming more content. Love to add new viewers who don't know about us, and excited to present more programs and more conversation soon. Watch that space.
Soon. Folks, be sure you're subscribed to Frank Analysis, Chicago Corner, and Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show. I think Chuck's show, you're primarily on Rumble, but you're also on YouTube as well. I know Chicago Corner is on YouTube. Are you guys still on Rockfin, or do you guys even mess with it?
We have channel. So what happened was, after the Russell Brand scandal, where they demonetized his channel and started screwing around with him because he was too dangerous, we decided to stand with him in solidarity and bail YouTube and go broadcast exclusively on Rumble and Rockfin last year. But I think, now that stuff's passed, it's important to be on all the platforms. So we basically simulcast across all platforms when we do broadcasts. So you can find us on any of them.
Diversify your platforms, because fuckery is always afoot, and you never know when the hammer's going to drop. So, guys, appreciate it. Chat, love each and every one of you. If you are new to this channel, if you could give us a like, share, and subscribe, that'd be nice. We also got donation links below if you want to hook us up with a little turkey stuffing. That would be appreciated. Some giblets. And we do a Patreon too, if you want to do it $1 a month, or, if you can't do any of that, if you want to share out the links for us, we appreciate that as well. So you guys take it easy. Happy Turkey Day to you, and we'll see you next time. Gobble, gobble, gobble.